All right, let's talk cryptocurrency regulation. All eyes are going to be on a very important meet, which has been called by the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Finance. The topic of the meeting is to discuss opportunities and challenges for crypto finance. So, a very innocuous titled, agenda for the meeting. But it comes at a time when there is a lot of bargaining going on about where will the regulation of cryptocurrencies stand in terms of, will it tighten the grip on cryptocurrency exchanges, which right now are flourishing and growing its customer base at a very high rate? Will it tax heavily or lightly gains from cryptocurrencies? Will it envisage some kind of protection for investors who don't quite understand what they're investing in but are just going with the flow? So all of these questions now abound. To speak on some of these issues, I'm joined now by Ajeet Khurana. He's former head of BACC, which is the Blockchain and Crypto Committee of India. Mythili Bhusnurmath, consulting editor, ET Now, is with us, as is Sidharth Sogani, founder and CEO of CREBACO. Welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us this evening on the India Development Debate. Ajeet, let me begin by your overview on, and I'm not just sticking to the agenda of the meeting on Monday. Clearly, that's an important one, and we'll be tracking it right here on ET Now. But even as we're waiting to firm up legislation on cryptocurrencies, there is a huge increase in the number of people investing. Even if the increase is not that huge, there's a huge amount of promotion of cryptocurrency investment, and some quarters see that as a concern. What do you make of this?
Concern is genuine. When people see, very heavy advertising, sponsorship, etc., the risk is that FOMO, that is fear of missing out, might be generated, and people may do absolutely no research or understand what is going on and participate. This goes against, this helps nobody. So the government's concerns around consumer protection, around capital flight, taxation are all genuine. However, it is not as if there isn't a solution, and I hope that the upcoming meeting will find a win-win-win for government, businesses, and citizens.
Okay, so what is in that win-win-win, Ajeet? Would you care to elaborate?
Sure, absolutely. So having been part of the journey, where the Reserve Bank of India once had taken a very harsh stand against the entire cryptocurrency paradigm and still continues to, let's say, not be a fan at all, I think that my approach would be exactly the opposite. If I were the government or even Reserve Bank of India, I would say that all cryptocurrency transactions should originate from your bank account. And then once you have done your buying, selling, gaining profit, booking loss, whatever, they should end up in your bank account. This solves the concerns around, where this money went, what sort of taxation has to be levied, etc. And at the same time keeps everything in the lit area as opposed to pushing it into a dark area. Consumer protection is foremost. So some sort of guideline around best practices or rules about how exchanges should be run. But I want that any regulatory framework should not restrict its thoughts only to exchanges, because while exchanges are where people go and touch cryptocurrency, frankly, the cryptocurrency paradigm is far deeper than just exchanges, involves a lot of setups. For example, India's first crypto or blockchain unicorn actually was Polygon, which was called Matic. And then we had CoinDCX join in as a first exchange crypto unicorn. So I think there's a lot that the country can gain: taxation, employment, global standards, etc. And we are signatories to the Financial Action Task Force and G20, etc., who have made their mind clear on how they view this. So let's go with where the world is going.
Okay, I'm very curious to know what Mythili's comments are on this. Mythili, when we spoke last, you compared the cryptocurrency craze to the Dutch craze for tulips in the 1800s. Have you changed your view, as it seems clearer and clearer that we're not going to ban cryptocurrencies anytime soon? It's going to be just a question of how much to tax them.
No, it's not just a question of how much to tax them, Tamanna. In fact, and I haven't changed my views one bit at all. In fact, as I watch the advertisements all over media and I see the way Indians are taking to cryptocurrency, I get more and more filled with apprehension. And I'm afraid I don't agree with Ajeet at all. In fact, it's not just the Reserve Bank of India, but regulators all over the world, including the Federal Reserve, including the People's Bank of China, including the BIS, which is the Central Bank of Central Banks, an association really of central banks, all of them have expressed their apprehensions about cryptocurrencies. Because if you look at cryptocurrencies, in fact, the name itself is a misnomer because they don't satisfy any of the three features of a currency. It's not a unit of account given the kind of volatility we've seen. It's not a medium of exchange since it's not accepted by everybody. It's not backed by any sovereign entity, and nor is it a store of value. It's at best a highly speculative asset, and a large number of Indians unfortunately are going into it without understanding it at all. And Ajeet's argument that you should just allow it to go out of bank accounts makes it even that much worse because you're linking banks, which are ultimately the very basis of the entire bank system in India, is the safety of banks. You're jeopardizing the safety of banks, which is why the governor of the RBI has rightly said that RBI has huge reservations. And the RBI, as I said, is not the only central bank of India, in the world that has these apprehensions. So if central banks everywhere have these apprehensions, regulators everywhere they have these apprehensions, it cannot be without reason. So I think it's very important that we go into this issue very carefully and discourage people from going into this and getting their fingers burnt.
Well, the exact opposite is happening. Some of the most expensive advertising slots, which is during IPL games, a lot of them were for cryptocurrency ads, and even during the T20 World Cup. I mean, that's the premium of premium in terms of ad slots. So seriously, serious money there. Sidharth Sogani, I have to come to you because the data you put out last month has caused a stir. You put out data that 10 crore Indians have invested in cryptocurrencies. Now, I'm sorry to have to say this, but everyone's rubbished it. From, cryptocurrency exchanges to even the governor recently who said he thinks it's highly exaggerated. How did you come to that figure? And do you think that more and more people are coming in larger numbers? Do we need more transparency on how many people are investing in this and how much?
Yes. Of course, a lot of people are coming in. We have seen exponential growth in the last 6 months for the crypto users which are coming into this space. About the data, we were very reluctant in giving out a figure of $10 billion, which is approximately 75,000 crores. But after we gave the data, the entire industry came out with a full page ad saying that 6 lakh crores, that's $80 billion. And that's wonderful. I mean, such great numbers are coming in from the industry. So I have always been conservative in terms of giving numbers, but when the industry is coming together and giving great numbers, it is something which is really, really good. And from the Monday's meeting, the agenda of the meeting is opportunity and challenges.
What about the number, Sidharth? What about the number of investors? You put out a figure of 10 crore in terms of numbers of investors.
I'll tell you how we got that number.
And you're not the only one. There's another research report says that in urban India it's 1 in 6. Yeah, please.
So how we got to that number is if you see, there are, like, if I'm a user, I may have an account with one exchange, the second exchange and third exchange. So there is duplication. So that's why the number looks that large. But if you see the actual number of users, they're actually lesser than what we've given. So I think when the news came out, it was not interpreted in the right manner. The number is not 105 million. It's not that big. It is, so we did a survey with 1,000 people. We asked them, how many exchanges do you use? And a lot of them say we use two exchanges, 3 exchanges. So if we put that formula, the number goes down by 40%, which is approximately 5.6 to 6 crore Indians. So I think that's totally all right. However, some of the leading research companies globally, we are a secondary research company, right? So we take a lot of secondary data from companies. Chainalysis, which is a $4 billion valued company, and a lot of other companies, they have also given numbers which are higher than us. So it's not just us. There are better companies globally who have given the user database, and there is the point of duplication has been ignored in that news. So I don't know. I mean, it is beyond my control. But yeah.
Fair enough. So no, even if I look at 5 crores, and you're right, Chain Analysis has said that India is the second largest growing market, there is no doubt more and more people are adopting this. Let me come back to you, Ajeet Khurana, on what we can expect. Give me two answers. One, what would be the best case scenario from the point of view of the crypto ecosystem, that is exchanges, investors and others, and what would be the worst case scenario?
So, ignoring the worst case being a ban, okay, because I think we seem to have moved beyond that. But what the current expectations of best and worst case are, the best case is that we have regulations very similar to countries such as Singapore have adopted, where a lot of disclosure-based regulation is going on. There is licensing and registration also, where you have certain restrictions, certain net worth requirements, certain disclosure requirements, the travel rule, where who is transferring what transfers through and is visible to everybody, exchanges and regulators alike. That would, I think, be a very enabling framework. The worst case, which, worst case is always like we all die. But I think the worst case in this scenario really is that we say we enable it, we do nothing to disable it, yet we place such restrictions that for all practical purposes, we come to a paralysis. I think that then leads to gazette notifications and clarifications and nothing really happens. I fear that could be the worst case.
Yeah. So we may as well have some clarity is what Ajeet is saying. Mythili, what is your guesstimate on what we will eventually end at? Clearly there will be a middle path, because the government may not be sharing the level of concern that the RBI governor has expressed. They know that, there's no point bolting the stable doors after the horse is left. And even if we have 4 or 5 crore users, there's still people there who have put in their money thinking that this is now allowed. It's not illegal to trade in cryptocurrencies today. What is the best thing that they can do?
Well, the first thing to do is to make it very clear to people that this is an entirely unregulated market and they enter at their risk, at their own risk. So if tomorrow they lose everything, remember there are a large number of cryptocurrencies which have come into existence and completely disappeared. People in advanced countries have lost millions of dollars. So I think it's very important that first of all, the government comes out, RBI comes out as a lead regulator, because it is, after all, you do have other regulators in the country, but the RBI has a responsibility as a lead regulator to come out and say, look, this is a risky area, this is unregulated area, you go in entirely at your own risk. Whereas today what we have is a regulatory vacuum. There is silence from the regulators, silence from the government. And remember, it is the government's responsibility to protect those who are unable to protect themselves without a foolishness, lack of knowledge or whatever. So I think the first thing to do is to come out and make it very clear that this is a risky market. It is not for everybody to go into it. And I agree that ban is not the answer. But this kind of situation where a regulatory vacuum and people rushing in because they think there's easy money to be made, that is the last kind of situation we would like. Particularly, I think we need to have very clear disclosures in the advertisements. But what you've seen from almost all the advertisements, it seems as if it's just money is there for the asking. That is not the situation. So I think that is the first responsibility of government and the RBI. And I do hope the Parliamentary Standing Committee realizes that its responsibility is to the people of the country. And people in a country where even literacy is not particularly high and financial literacy is almost completely absent, I think it's very important that we come out and ensure that A, there is consumer protection, people do not lose their money. B, financial stability, monetary stability, stability of the banking system is paramount. So I think it is very important that we step into the government steps into the breach and makes it very clear and prevents this kind of rampant spread of cryptomania, is the only way I can put it.
Cryptomania, Sidharth Sogani, what are you expecting to see from the meeting on Monday and of course eventually the bill that will be tabled in Parliament? Do you think there will be a curb on, as Mythili puts it, cryptomania?
I'm very positive about the meeting. What I believe is the government, and see, it is a very challenging market, right? The agenda of the meeting is challenges and opportunities. The thing is, they have not yet understood how to regulate it. And India is a closed economy. It's not that you can go to a restaurant and pay in US dollars. You have to convert that US dollars, go to a licensed Forex exchanger, change it into Indian rupees and go away. Whereas if you go in US or Europe, you can even pay in euros or US dollars and those guys. So Indian rupee is not a freely convertible currency. That has to be understood. And that is one of being, and the capital outflow, the LRS scheme, 250K limits, it is all a very closed ecosystem, right? So the government, when they have to regulate it, SEBI comes in for the exchanges, RBI comes in for the currency flow. So all these departments, they have to have synergies in between, or probably form a new department altogether which would regulate this space. So this is crucial. And why this, and I believe this
Yeah.
is the first bold step by the government where they have called the industry to understand how this ecosystem works. There are challenges, but we have one of the brightest minds in the world. We have solutions
Yeah.
for it as well. They want to track transactions. We have the solution. They want to monitor
Sure.
how much is coming in and going out. We have the solution. So it's good that the government is going to interact with all of us, and I'm very positive about it.
Yeah. I don't know if calling a meeting in itself is a bold step, but we can definitely hope for some kind of clarity on the regulatory grey area sooner than later. Ideally, it should have been done earlier, because look at what's happening in the world, and this is not just in India. As we wrap up this conversation, I just want to tell viewers about the Squid Game meme cryptocurrency, which became an overnight sensation after the popularity of a Netflix show called Squid Game. People bought it, it shot up several thousand %, and then they just pulled the rug. The makers just pulled the rug and disappeared with $3 million overnight, leaving many investors wondering what just happened. So we have to protect against things like this as well. So a tough task for policymakers ahead, but of course we are tracking the story. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us today on the India Development Debate, on the lead debate this evening.